The ceremony lasted exactly 47 minutes. The oath-taking was conducted in Latin. The ancient sword was drawn and resheathed according to rituals established 3 centuries ago. On May 16, 2025, at Westminster Abbey, Prince William was installed as Great Master of the Order of the Bath, in a ceremony most of the public never heard about. The media coverage was minimal. The constitutional significance was enormous. This wasn't just another ceremonial title added to William's already lengthy list of honours. Palace sources describe it as the final piece in a succession puzzle that's been quietly assembled over the past 18 months, transforming William from heir in waiting to heir in active preparation. The timing was calculated. King Charles had held this exact position for 50 years, since Queen Elizabeth II installed him in 1975. Passing it to William now, while Charles remains on the throne, breaks centuries of precedent about when such transfers of ancient authority typically occur. Constitutional historians note that Great Masters of the Order of the Bath have traditionally overseen military honours, civil service recognition, and the complex web of institutional loyalty that holds the British establishment together. It's a role that puts William at the centre of how power really flows in Britain. But the question that has constitutional experts quietly debating is whether this represents normal succession planning or something far more urgent. Why would Charles hand over this particular authority now? What does it signal about his own timeline? And what powers has William gained that the public doesn't understand? Picture Westminster Abbey on the morning of May 16, 2025, as centuries-old traditions unfold with precision that only comes from 300 years of institutional memory. The setting is magnificent, but deliberately understated. This isn't a coronation or state wedding that captures global attention. It's a ceremony that most of the British public doesn't even know is happening, yet its constitutional significance rivals any of the grand spectacles that fill television screens and newspaper headlines. The Order of the Bath service occurs every few years, marking the 300th anniversary of an institution established by King George I in 1725. The ceremony follows protocols that have barely changed across 3 centuries, conducted in Latin according to medieval traditions that connect modern Britain to its deepest constitutional roots. But today's ceremony carries weight that transcends historical continuity. Among the figures processing through Westminster Abbey in their scarlet and gold regalia is Prince William, about to assume a title that will fundamentally alter his constitutional position within the British establishment. The ceremony lasts exactly 47 minutes. The ancient sword is drawn and resheathed, according to rituals that predate modern democracy. The oath-taking is conducted in language that most spectators don't understand, but whose legal implications shape how power flows through British institutional systems. What makes this particular ceremony historically significant isn't its pageantry or ancient customs. It's the quiet transfer of authority that occurs when William accepts appointment as Great Master of the Order of the Bath, a position that connects him to networks of institutional loyalty and governmental influence that extend far beyond ceremonial recognition. The timing is calculated with precision that only becomes apparent when you understand what great masters actually do, and why this particular transfer of authority matters for the future of British constitutional governance. To understand why William's appointment as Great Master of the Order of the Bath represents more than ceremonial advancement, we need to examine the hidden networks of influence and institutional loyalty that this ancient order continues to manage in modern Britain. The order that still matters, historical foundation. The Order of the Bath isn't a museum piece from Britain's past. It's a living institution that recognises and coordinates the senior figures who actually run the British governmental system. Military officers, civil servants, diplomats and institutional leaders who receive honours through the order form networks of professional relationship and mutual obligation that influence how decisions get made and implemented across British governance. Great Masters of the Order don't just preside over ceremonies, they become central nodes in these networks, with influence over recognition, career advancement, and institutional relationships that affect how British governmental systems actually function behind formal constitutional structures. King Charles held this position for 50 years, from 1975 until 2025. His appointment by Queen Elizabeth II established him as a key figure in British institutional networks decades before he became king, giving him relationships and influence that shaped his approach to royal constitutional duties. The transfer that breaks precedent. 2024-2025. Charles's decision to transfer the Great Master position to William in 2025, while Charles remains king, breaks centuries of precedent about when such transfers of institutional authority typically occur. Traditionally, Great Masters hold their positions until death or abdication. Thoughtful. Charles's voluntary transfer of this role while remaining on the throne signals something unprecedented about succession planning and the distribution of royal institutional authority. Palace sources reveal that the transfer was discussed and planned over many months, with constitutional advisors examining the legal and practical implications of having a Great Master who isn't the reigning monarch. The precedent being established affects more than just the Order of the Bath. It signals a new approach to how royal authority and institutional influence can be distributed between current and future monarchs, while both remain active in constitutional roles. As Great Master of the Order of the Bath, William gains influence over recognition and advancement within British military, civil service, and diplomatic establishments. This influence extends beyond ceremonial recognition into practical career development and institutional relationship management. The Order's membership includes the senior officers who actually run British governmental departments, military commands, and diplomatic missions. William's role as Great Master connects him to these networks in ways that give him practical influence over governmental operations, independently of his role as heir to the throne. Constitutional experts note that this influence operates parallel to traditional royal constitutional roles, giving William authority and relationships that supplement his heir status with direct institutional connections. The timing that reveals everything. 2025. The transfer of Great Master authority to William occurs at a moment when succession planning has become urgent rather than theoretical, due to King Charles's health situation and age-related concerns about the timeline for monarchical transition. Rather than waiting for succession to transfer institutional roles, Charles is actively preparing William for expanded authority, while Charles remains king. The Great Master appointment represents part of this broader strategy of gradual authority transfer before formal succession occurs. The timing also reflects Charles's recognition that William needs practical experience with institutional leadership and governmental relationships that go beyond traditional heir preparation into actual authority and responsibility within British constitutional systems. The military and civil service implications. 2025. William's appointment as Great Master gives him direct relationships with senior military officers and civil servants that could significantly influence his future effectiveness as king and his understanding of governmental operations. The Order of the Bath specifically recognises military and civil service leadership, connecting William to the professional expertise and institutional knowledge that monarchs depend on for effective constitutional decision-making. This practical connection to governmental expertise supplements William's formal constitutional education with relationships and understanding that could prove crucial for his future reign. The International Recognition Networks, 2025. The Order of the Bath includes honorary appointments for international military and diplomatic figures, giving the Great Master influence over British relationships with allied nations and international partners. William's role in managing these international recognition networks provides him with diplomatic relationships and understanding that extend beyond traditional royal ceremonial functions into practical international relationship management. Before we reveal exactly how much power William now controls, if you're finding this constitutional analysis helpful, hit that subscribe button. We're the only channel breaking down the real power moves happening behind palace doors. Not the manufactured drama, but the actual institutional changes that shape how Britain works. Plus, ring the notification bell, because these succession developments are happening fast, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Now, let's dive into the shocking truth about what William's new role actually means. Here's the constitutional truth about William's appointment as Great Master of the Order of the Bath. It represents the most significant transfer of institutional authority from a reigning monarch to an heir in modern British history. Disguised as routine ceremonial advancement, the power structure William now commands. The Great Master position isn't honorary. It carries real authority over recognition, advancement, and institutional relationships within British military, civil service, and diplomatic establishments. This authority operates through formal channels that affect career development, professional relationships, and institutional influence across British governmental systems. William now has direct input into military honours, civil service recognition, and diplomatic appointments that affect how British governmental institutions actually function. This influence extends beyond ceremonial recognition into practical career management and institutional relationship coordination. Constitutional analysis reveals that the Great Master role gives William institutional authority that parallels and supplements his royal constitutional position, creating dual sources of influence within British governmental systems. The precedent that changes royal succession. Charles's transfer of Great Master authority while remaining king establishes precedent for distributing royal institutional roles before formal succession occurs. This approach to succession planning allows heirs to gain practical authority and experience, while predecessors retain overall royal constitutional responsibility. The innovation could influence how future royal successions handle the transition of institutional authority, potentially allowing for more gradual and practical preparation than traditional sudden succession would provide. Constitutional experts describe this as one of the most significant innovations in royal succession planning since the establishment of modern constitutional monarchy. The networks that connect to real power. Analysis of Order of the Bath membership reveals networks that include the senior figures who actually run British governmental operations, permanent secretaries, military commanders, diplomatic leaders, and institutional experts who implement governmental policy, regardless of which political party holds power. William's role as Great Master connects him to these networks in ways that provide understanding of how British governance actually works beyond formal constitutional structures and political processes. This institutional knowledge and these professional relationships could prove crucial for William's future effectiveness as king and his ability to fulfill constitutional roles that require understanding of governmental operations. The international authority few understand, the Great Master role, includes authority over international aspects of the Order of the Bath, giving William influence over British relationships with allied military and diplomatic establishments worldwide. This international authority supplements traditional royal diplomatic roles with practical influence over military cooperation, diplomatic recognition, and institutional relationships that affect British foreign policy implementation. Constitutional analysis suggests that William's international authority as Great Master could significantly enhance the monarchy's role in British international relationships and Commonwealth governance. The timeline that reveals urgency. The timing of William's Great Master appointment reflects broader urgency in succession planning that extends beyond health considerations into practical preparation for expanded royal responsibility within compressed timeframes. The transfer occurs as part of broader preparation for William to assume greater constitutional authority sooner than traditional succession planning would suggest, reflecting palace recognition that practical succession preparation needs to accelerate. Constitutional experts note that the Great Master transfer represents visible evidence of succession planning that operates on a 5-year rather than decades-long timeline. The implications of William's appointment as Great Master of the Order of the Bath have created ripple effects throughout British institutional systems, though many of these consequences remain hidden from public view. The military establishment response. Senior military officers have begun adapting to William's new role in military recognition and institutional relationships, creating new protocols for managing the unique situation of having a great master who is also heir to the throne. Military planning has been influenced by William's expanded role in military honours and recognition, affecting everything from career development expectations to institutional relationship management within British Armed Forces. The military establishment's adaptation to William's great master authority reveals the practical influence this role carries within British defence institutions and military leadership development. The civil service adjustment. British civil service leadership has recognised the significance of William's new authority over civil service recognition and institutional relationships, leading to adjustments in how permanent secretaries and senior civil servants approach royal institutional relationships. The civil service response reflects understanding that William's great master role provides him with influence over career development and institutional advancement that supplements his royal heir status with practical governmental authority. Administrative adjustments within civil service systems reveal the real influence that great master authority carries within British governmental operations. The diplomatic community. Recognition. International diplomatic establishments have begun acknowledging William's expanded authority through the Order of the Bath, creating new approaches to diplomatic relationship management that recognise his practical influence over British international institutional relationships. The diplomatic response reveals understanding that William's great master role affects British foreign policy implementation through military cooperation, diplomatic recognition, and institutional relationship management. International adaptation to William's new authority demonstrates the global implications of changes in British institutional leadership structures. The constitutional law expert analysis. Constitutional scholars have begun analysing the precedent established by Charles's transfer of great master authority while remaining king, recognising the innovation as significant development in royal succession planning and institutional authority distribution. Legal analysis of the great master transfer reveals constitutional innovations that could influence future succession planning and the balance between current royal authority and heir preparation. Constitutional expert response demonstrates the legal significance of institutional changes that appear ceremonial but carry real governmental authority implications. The palace operations adaptation royal household operations have been restructured to accommodate William's expanded institutional responsibilities as Great Master, while maintaining coordination with Charles's continued royal constitutional authority. Palace administrative changes reflect the complexity of managing parallel royal operations when institutional authority is distributed between current and future monarchs in unprecedented ways. The administrative adaptation reveals the practical challenges and innovations required when traditional royal institutional structures must accommodate new approaches to authority distribution and succession preparation. William's appointment as Great Master of the Order of the Bath represents a fundamental shift in how constitutional monarchies can handle succession planning, while maintaining institutional continuity and effectiveness. The constitutional innovation. The transfer of significant institutional authority from a reigning monarch to an heir, while both remain active, establishes precedent for how constitutional systems can manage succession preparation when traditional gradual approaches must be compressed into shorter timeframes. This innovation could influence succession planning in other constitutional monarchies and provide models for how institutional authority can be distributed to maintain continuity while preparing for leadership transitions. The constitutional precedent being established extends beyond royal succession into broader questions about institutional leadership transition and authority distribution in democratic systems. The democratic governance implications. William's expanded institutional authority through the Great Master role affects how the monarchy relates to British democratic governance, giving him practical influence over governmental operations that supplements traditional constitutional royal roles. The balance between royal institutional authority and democratic accountability becomes more complex when heirs gain significant governmental influence before formal succession occurs. Democratic implications of expanded royal institutional authority require careful management to maintain appropriate constitutional balance and public accountability. The international constitutional influence. The precedent established by William's Great Master appointment could influence constitutional monarchy development in Commonwealth nations and other constitutional systems that balance traditional authority with democratic governance. International constitutional systems often look to British precedents when developing their own approaches to institutional leadership and succession planning. The innovation in royal institutional authority distribution could provide models for other constitutional systems facing similar challenges in traditional institution adaptation.